What's up you guys, it's Simon. Welcome back to my channel. So for today's video, we are going to be revisiting the Notes app. And by revisiting, if you're a newer viewer, you might not know, but about a year ago, over a year ago now actually, I did a video where I tried to draw exclusively using the Notes app. And I felt like in my first video, I didn't really use the program to its fullest extent. I kind of just used one brush apart from the eraser, and I didn't really test anything out with any of the other features. So I just felt like it was deserving of a redo. So here is that video for you guys. So how exactly have things changed with the Notes app? Well, there haven't really been any technical updates apart from cosmetics. I felt like it was actually a lot nicer to use this time around. Last time I wasn't taking advantage of certain features like the opacity tool that I knew were available at the time of that first video. So because of that, rather than giving myself the opportunity to sketch and get a feeling of the tools, I just went straight into my base color for that illustration and had to work around it, which meant that it was really difficult for me to get the features of the face placed properly, and I overall ended up with an illustration that was kind of wonky and disproportionate, and that I felt like wasn't even very true to my style. So to remedy that this time around, I decided to work with the pencil tool, which was surprisingly very nice. In fact, I liked this pencil tool in the Notes app ironically more than I did either of the Adobe apps I reviewed a few months ago. I also thought that the pencil was really comparable to the pencil I always use to sketch in Procreate, and that is one of the base brushes under the sketching section. I always use the 6B brush, and I felt like that was very similar, so I really liked that a lot. So after making my initial sketch, I realized that there were some things that I wanted to change, so I ultimately decided on making a second sketch, because although there is an option for an eraser, it isn't the best one in the entire world. The default setting for the eraser is set to something called Object Erase, which means that it erases the entire stroke that you've made rather than just a small area that you were trying to erase with. However, if you switch it to the pixel erase, that fixes this issue, which seems like a good thing. But then there's a second issue, and that second issue is that unlike the other tools available to you, like the pen, the highlighter, and the pencil, the eraser doesn't have an option to change the opacity or even the brush size, and to my knowledge, again, like the other tools, it also doesn't have pen pressure, which means it's very hard to get a precise eraser. That being said, it was helpful for erasing some parts when I did my second sketch, and I also noticed partway through that second sketch that the weird pencil with the lines through it is a selection tool, which I was ridiculously excited by. While it didn't give me the option to turn or tilt things or even really change the size, I was impressed that it let me at the very least move certain parts of my illustration, like the shoulder area and the bottom of the face, to let me fix any anatomy mistakes that I'd made. So, getting into the actual coloring of the illustration, there were a lot of ups and downs during this portion. Because I decided to sketch this time around, it meant that I couldn't set my base color to full opacity. So the problem with that is that all of the tools at lower opacity have the ability to layer, sort of similar to the effect of layering like a highlighter or an alcohol marker to darken the color. This meant that for each base color, I was going to have to try my hardest not to lift my hand at all and cover the entire area, which left me feeling a little bit crampy, but overall it was something that I felt like I could work around. I could also use this to my advantage in places like the hair and face to create some shading. Speaking of shading, there's also not much to be said about blending in the Notes app either. Of course, because it isn't intended for illustration, there's no sort of airbrush tool. All of the tools available to you, apart from the pencil, are what would be considered like hard round brushes in like Photoshop, for example, meaning the only way to get the illusion of blending like blended shading would be to mess around with a very low opacity and some of that layering function. I managed to get some of this soft-ish shading, particularly with her nose and eye makeup, by using a mixture of the pen at a low opacity and a bit of the pencil at a sort of like mid-level opacity. There's also a bit of an example of this on the side of her face, but I still feel like that's a bit harsher shading than I would have liked. I also want to mention that there is obviously no layer function. This is not meant to be used for illustration, so if you're somebody that's not comfortable working on one layer, I would not recommend using the Notes app just because it comes with your phone, because there are a lot of free apps like Ibis Paint X and Medibang, which I've also done reviews on, that do have layer functions. So if you feel like you're stuck using the Notes app because you can't afford Procreate, maybe consider checking some of those out. So for obvious reasons, overall, I like this illustration a lot more than the deku that I made in the first one. I also feel like my style has changed a lot since last year, and like, can you guys believe that it's been a year already? That's insane. Anyway, I really like how this illustration turned out. I actually sent it to my friends in the Discord like the day that I made it because I was too excited for the video to come out. I was like, you guys need to see this. This was done in Notes. What? I also found out that you can export the drawing similar to how you would in Procreate, which is really cool. So you guys should be seeing some sort of close-up of the illustration right now, either moving across the screen or just sitting on there. But I hope you guys like this illustration. If you did, don't forget to subscribe and leave a comment down below letting me know what you think of it, or maybe if you don't like it, still leave a comment. I want to know. Your feedback is super, super important to me. Sorry, my dog's scratching on the door. But I hope you guys like this illustration. But yeah, overall, like I said, I really like how this illustration turned out. I thought it turned out really, really well, especially considering the fact that it was done on literally the Notes app. Speaking of the Notes app, if there are any other apps you guys want me to try that are available for iPad that you've seen and maybe been interested in that I haven't tried out on my channel before, be sure to leave those down in the comments and I will do my best to test them out and maybe they'll end up in a video. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, like I said. Leave a comment down below maybe telling me like what was your favorite thing about this illustration, or maybe what your favorite drawing app is. Also, I want to give a big shout out to my patrons Elise Thompson and Duran, and also Mandy, who is our newest patron. Thank you so much, Mandy, for joining the Patreon. I hope that you're as excited as I am. I hope that you're enjoying all of the stuff that's going to be rolling out this September. But yeah, overall, thank you so much. I appreciate your guys' support. If you want to get a shout out alongside awesome people like Elise, Duran, and Mandy, be sure to check out the Patreon. It will be linked down in the description. You can get a ton of cool rewards like shout outs, Etsy discounts, commission discounts, coloring pages, wallpapers, all that sort of stuff. So if that's something that interests you, like I said, be sure to check out the Patreon down below. I love you guys so much, and I'll see y'all in the next one. Bye.